Isn't that Taylor's whole thing? Her whole brand is friendship. Her whole brand is friendship bracelets and being good to the people who you love. Like, and we're gonna get to it with our recidivist later in the show. Okay, so Taylor was much more involved, much more involved. So this broke last week. These are text messages between Taylor and Blake Lively. Now, this is shortly before, like days before the New York Times ran what in retrospect really feels like a stenographer's report. Like they went over to Blake's house and Blake like gave them her little burned book and her bitchy self-report, and the Times ran with it. So it's a few days before, and Taylor says to Blake, I think Baldoni got a hot tip that something's coming, because she says in this text message to Blake, I think this bitch, and that would be Justin Baldoni, I think this bitch knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin. Now, with included in this text, Taylor, and if you think, again, you think these people aren't consuming all the stuff we consume, they do. This, she linked to a People magazine story. It was a profile. It was a pickup from an interview Justin gave to like a podcast. So this story was published by People December 4th, 2024. And the headline, Justin Baldoni reveals he was sexually traumatized by an ex-girlfriend when he was, quote, hoping to save myself for marriage. Now, again, Taylor, Blake, psycho arsonist Ryan, I thought we were all on the side of like protecting victims and empowering victims and never doubting the self-report of someone who says they survived a sexual trauma. What do I know? What do I know? Now, in this piece that Taylor sent to Blake, Baldoni was quoted as saying that after he, quote, experienced sexual trauma in that relationship, he then, quote, wrestled with that trauma for the rest of my life. Because in my head, a man can't experience sexual trauma at the hands of a woman. The star, who had previously been open about his Baha'i faith, and that's the faith that he and his intimates were corresponding about, trying to take the high road with all this bullshit with Taylor and Blake and their little handmaidens, said he was, quote, hoping to save myself for marriage. And that's as detailed as I'll get into the story. One day, my therapist asked me a very simple question. She said, Justin, you do a lot of work in this space. If a woman told you that story, what would you call it? And that's when I broke, he said, adding that his healing began at that point. Now, also, according to this document dump, contrary to what Tree Payne and Taylor's massive PR army would have us believe, which the report back when this stuff broke was like, Taylor just wound up there randomly. She was like, she didn't know what was going on. She had nothing to do with Blake and Ryan bullying Justin Baldoni up in their Tribeca penthouse. Not so. According to these docs, Taylor was anything but an innocent bystander who was set up by Blake during this New York City penthouse beatdown. Metaphorical. In fact, Taylor seemed to be very involved in Blake's strategy, texting Blake if Justin was strategic. So this is after Blake said, hey, man, you know what? One of my best friends, my dragon, happens to just be Taylor Swift, the biggest pop star on the planet, this side of Beyonce. Would you like a Taylor Swift song for the trailer? Because that would give us a ton of buzz. That would be great. It's basically Taylor's endorsement. And Justin said yes. And we know from a lot of these docs that Justin was also just trying to appease the fuck out of Blake Lively, because this was a war of attrition and he just needed to get through this so he could get another job in Hollywood, okay? But Taylor texts Blake about their strategy, their little art of war. And this is what Taylor says. If Justin was strategic, he would be like, no Taylor Swift in the trailer, no Taylor Swift, because that gives you more power over the film. She's talking to Blake. That gives you, Blake, more power over the film. That's your ally, meaning Taylor, not his. Taylor also wrote to Blake, this is so disgusting, and I hate that he's clever about this shit. Per The Hollywood Reporter, in a comprehensive piece written by Lexi Perez, published on January 21st, 2026. So that's last week. In messages a year prior, Lively referred to Baldoni as the quote doofus director of my movie in a message to Swift, adding that he is a quote clown who quote thinks he's a writer now. Again, I believe when Blake signed this contract, Baldoni was signed up as the writer, director, and co-star of the film. But, you know, Blake Lively's fucking Toni Morrison. Blake Lively's fucking William Goldman. In another message, Lively asked Swift, who was allegedly, this is that same meeting already, on her way to visit while Baldoni was present in Lively's home, to endorse a revised version of the script that Blake was proposing, but that Taylor didn't need to read it if she couldn't. In Lively's deposition, she said, quote, I sent Taylor the script on her way to my apartment because Justin was still there. And I asked her to read them. That looks like an ungrammatical thing. I told her, Blake told Taylor, she didn't have to. Well, how could she read the whole script on her way over? Even if she's in the back of an SUV, she doesn't have time to read your whole fucking piece of shit script, Blake. Blake Lively, most famous for Gossip Girl, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, fucking Akira Kurosawa over here. I didn't want her to feel pressure to do that, but I hoped that she would. Swift allegedly replied in a text message, I'll do anything for you, exclamation point, exclamation point. If these two haven't seen the 1989 cult classic Heathers, they really should. This is such mean girl bitchery. It's, you know, Taylor Swift is what, 35, 36? She's closing in on 40. She's about to get married. I'd do anything for you, exclamation point, exclamation point. In a later message, this is all so embarrassing, and it's such bullshit because none of this happened. You know it, I know it, okay? In a later message, Lively allegedly wrote to the singer that she was, quote, so epically heroic today, and that she, quote, recapped every moment to Reynolds. Okay, imagine these two in the spacious kitchen of their Tribeca loft. They've got 4 kids who, you know, when Ryan Reynolds isn't busy making one of his children say something about like cock and balls in a movie that he's directed, and she says, like, Dad, mate, I really don't want to say this stuff. And he's like, well, you're going to say it, and we're going to make you do like 50 to 500 takes again. Ryan Reynolds is David Fincher. You know, I don't think these two have time to be like replaying, like for Blake to be reenacting her what she and Taylor Swift did to Justin Baldoni in the kitchen, and that Ryan Reynolds, like a little girl, is just sitting there going, oh, do it again for me. Oh, please tell me again. I can't believe it. And by the way, I thought Ryan was there at this meeting. So how many meetings were there in this Tribeca loft? Okay. So Blake is recapping every moment to psycho arsonist Ryan. I kept remembering stuff, Blake writes. You making shit up about me and lenses. Okay, so Blake is admitting that Taylor was lying to Justin, that Blake was fluent in what lenses a director would use to shoot any given scene. Okay, that is dastardly to me. That is nefarious. This would be, you know, like if I were writing a book and I hired someone to help me do research and they stole my manuscript and went to my publisher and said, this is my book now. I know how to write this book better than Maureen does. She may have signed the deal with you and you may have paid her, but you know what? It's my shit now. This is my book now. This is like horrific. This is horrific. Blake continues to Taylor, and referring to yourself as my doll. I think there's some psychosexual stuff going on with Blake and Taylor. I always have. If you look at those photos of them, there's one where they're like in a nightclub and they're like Taylor's posed up against Blake and Blake's got like her hand on Taylor's thigh, and their makeup is the same. They're always like dry humping at like any given Travis like football game, always holding hands with each other on the way to dinner. What grown woman holds hands with her best friend? I mean, Oprah and Gail may have some, they may be able to elucidate this for us, but it's all very strange. And I do think, just my opinion, there is a psychosexual dynamic at work here. Blake continues to Taylor about Justin Baldoni, this clown, falling for all of it, but also resisting it. You are the world's greatest friend ever. Taylor then begins slow ghosting Blake. And, you know, we can get into that later because it's a lot. It's a lot. But Taylor Swift is more of a corporation than a human being at this point. I'm sorry, she is. And Blake Lively became a huge liability. And so Blake had to go. The beauty industry has been scamming women for decades, peddling toxic, overpriced potions that promise miracles and deliver nothing. We are all sick of it. And that is why Van Man's Pearl Eye Cream is a game changer. They've rejected the chemical garbage and they've gone primal with grass fed tallow paired with wild caught pearl powder, an ancient, nutrient dense secret that actually supports eye health, not skin health. Deeply penetrating emu and castor oils smooth skin tone and help fight vision degradation, cataracts, and even floaters. Then royal jelly, organic green tea, frankincense, and rose, real pronounceable ingredients that tighten skin and boost collagen. No fillers, no fraud. This is the eye cream that the beauty industry does not want you to discover. And they've got lots of other great all natural products too. I love their lip balm. I use it constantly. So go give your eyes the care they actually deserve. Go to vanman.shop/Maureen and use code Maureen for 15% off your first order. That is vanman.shop, vanman.shop/Maureen and use code Maureen for 15% off your first order. Van Man, real ingredients, no exceptions.